So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time is while you're watching this. Here is my new mic for you. So, this is the second lecture in the series of general psychology. As we continue with learning about psychology, and let me remove myself. You know what? This is going to be disturbing, so I'm going to remove the video for now. So, what is cognition, which is the subject of this week? What is cognition? Cognition is the whole process, the mental process, action. Your process of acquiring knowledge. I mean, you're getting knowledge in a way, and we start cognition very early on after birth. Now, at the beginning, there is a lot of implanted genetic behavior. With time, when we become more conscious, we start to learn things through cognition. So it's about, as I said, acquiring the knowledge and understanding. And this is here the point, important. Through thought, you're thinking, experience, something happens, and the senses. So there's thinking and awareness, right? Thought, experience, and senses. What is cognition? So you're thinking about something, probably from previous experience, you've seen it before. So you're not a new formatted person, unless you have amnesia. With amnesia, that's a different story. But let's concentrate on this here. So from the age of about 2, 3, you start to have some consciousness, a little bit. Proper cognition starts around 6 years old, when you're 6 years old, approximately. That's when you understand what is half full glass or half empty. So to understand what is a full glass and half full, it starts around the 5, 6 years old. So as it is with my lectures, we're going to have some video. Let's look at this. This is, let's go back for a sec. So we're going to have some experience here. And that experience will give us cognition to think about it for next time. And there is some senses also involved here.
Today's video is sponsored by War Thunder.
Today we're putting a common household hazard to the test. We are going to see what happens if you stick a paperclip into a live outlet. Here we have an outlet, and of course normally outlets aren't just sitting in the middle of the desk, but this outlet has been extended from the wall outlet. This is a normal outlet. It has all the same insides and parts and workings and wires as the outlets in your wall. The only difference is it's a lot easier to get to here on the desk. As you can see, Callie has plugged in this lamp. It is functioning.
Of course, it's also not normal for a tank to come crashing through your...
The ground wire. All of the electricity is coming in through the hot. Getting the same result. We're seeing about 120 with the neutral and ground. That allows the circuit to complete. If the paperclip is touching with the outlet unplugged now, we have some hot dogs which have a similar moisture and sodium content to people, and we're going to see what happens if we connect hot dogs to both of these wires.
So he's putting on a much thicker, much more insulated glove than this.
Okay, so now we're going to see if anything happens with this hot dog touching to both of these paperclips. Oh, that is sparking and that is burning.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I like my fingers.
So that would be your fingers right there.
Yeah, it almost has a smell of burning hair. That's actually what this reminds me of.
Probably the casing around the hot dog. So you may see this and think, well, I mean, I get that it's shocking and it's burning a little bit, but that doesn't look like that bad of an injury.
So if you just left a hot dog sitting on this for like 10 minutes, would you have a quick hot dog?
At least partially. Right now we've got the lead soaked. It just takes a little bit of contact circuit. So we've seen what our breaker, which is what we were hoping would happen. That's what the breaker is designed for. And you can see now this is still
So what we have noticed here is a new experience, and the experience was of showing you what electricity could do. Now, it was done with a hot dog, so you've got now some new knowledge of that. You probably have thought it is dangerous, but you didn't know how it would be dangerous. And the same thing is with other skills that you may want to teach a child to do or not to do: how to cross a road, how to not play with electrical outlets, and other dangerous activities that are at home. So we start with thinking. So what is thinking? Yeah. So you see something with your senses, you experience it, and then you start to think. So generally speaking, we said, we're thinking as a mental activity or processing of information. So what is thinking is you get information. It's like a computer. Think about it like a computer. Computer is processing data. So you have data all the time by hearing, seeing, touching, and your other senses: eating, tasting, and smelling. So all of these give you impulses to think. So for example, if you smell baby powder now, the first thing you think about is probably your little brother or sister when she was getting diapers. And how is that? So it could be a word, a visual image, a sound, data, anything. And that's something that you do every single minute you're awake, and also while you're asleep, partially. So what thinking does is transform information into a new and different form for the purpose of answering a question, for example. Yeah. You're solving a problem, you're reaching a goal, you're getting there. So you're thinking to solve a problem. The quiz you will be doing soon is one of those. You've learned something, you think about it, and then you have a problem, you want to solve it to reach a goal, which is passing this course and not do it again. So at the meantime, we have understood what the process of thinking is. And there is a lot of intellectual functions and processes within that. Let's look at this here. There is attention here. So pay attention, paying attention, which helps you to learn. Not paying attention is going to be difficult in the learning process. Then you get some knowledge, something new, something that you've seen or heard. This goes into your memory and your working memory. And then you start to judge it and evaluate it. So one level higher, then you have reasoning and computation, problem solving, and decision making. So you've got afterwards some more complex work you do to assess this. You understand it, and then also, understanding language and the production of language is within that learning process. So normally babies, when they are born, they do not speak any language, and they learn it as they go in life, and that is from all what they perceive through their senses. So they get through the senses the sounds and the way it's spoken, and then they start to learn, to reproduce it, to do it, to produce the language. And at the beginning, it is a bit awkward, sounds funny, and then with time, it gets better and better. And as we all know, it depends on where you grow up. You may have a certain accent, and you may have difficulty of unlearning that accent at a later stage. because we know now that language seems to be easier to learn up to the age of 10 to perfect it. So if you grew up in Germany, for example, or Austria, then your German is going to be as good as a native person if you grew up early in your age, in your life. But if you go later, then there is a good chance that you will work harder, a lot harder, to learn how to speak like a native speaker. It is not impossible, but it is harder, right? So the process of cognition is after the knowledge you've seen, taken in, learned, and then you start to process it and you generate new knowledge. The whole process of anyone going through any course or study and coming out on the other side with creating something. Let's say you go and do a course for programming in C++ language, for example. You've learned something, and that's the knowledge, and then your cognition will help you with all your other experiences to generate new knowledge. For example, you may put on some program, some learning process, something from what you've learned. So cognition is the perception of what the senses perceive and creating knowledge out of that to understand what's going on in the world. And that's the whole process of us perceiving the world and reacting to it. And that's also part of how we survive life. So if someone comes in with a knife, you have seen the knife before, and you know usually the knife is to cut meat or vegetables. But then if the knife is in the hand of someone and this person is pointing the knife to you, then there is a good likelihood that this person is planning to harm you. So you may decide to avoid that person or defend yourself. And that is the process of cognition here. And let me show you this here. So this girl is 2 years old, and this is her first time learning how to ride a bike with the assistance of her father and 2 extra wheels on her bicycle. So this is the first step on learning how to ride a bike. And then after that, most of you probably have learned it. Then you go and remove those assisting wheels and ride the bike on 2 wheels. And that is the processes of seeing and trying it. So she looks at other children riding on 2 wheels. Right? There is a lot of cognition going on in the brain of this small toddler at the meantime. Now she's learning to control it. Slowly she's getting better. Already within minutes, she's getting better. She was a bit uncertain at the beginning, and now she's more confident and she can ride confidently. Look, and she knows how to brake, etc. So we have just witnessed cognition. Let's look at this video. This is sucking liquids from a straw. Now, we're not born to know that exactly. From the breast of the mother, yes. But this is just a simple straw. And you see, quickly, the baby understands what to do. And we start to learn very early on, as I said. And yes, she's cute. Now, part of the senses we have is vision. And our vision takes on waves in a certain spectrum of the electromagnetic wavelength. Sometimes you don't see something, and it has nothing to do with blindness. It's either not within that electromagnetic wave. We don't see infrared, we don't see ultraviolet, we don't see X-rays, we don't see a lot of things, and they do exist. But we just don't see them, and that doesn't mean that you're blind. In addition to that, within that electromagnetic wavelength, there's some research that shows that sometimes you don't see certain things. And that is the problem with witness statements, is that we have discovered that witness statements to a high extent are inaccurate. Inaccurate because we perceive things in a bizarre, strange way, and I'll show you in a minute. Sometimes it is not what happened, you just have something in your mind, and there's a lot of evidence to show that even though you're 100% confident and there is no intention of you being lying, there is a lot of evidence to show that that is inadvertently something that we all have. More recently, someone was freed from prison after 37 years because the witness statements turned out to be wrong. DNA helped him.